Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Power is most dangerous when it doesn't announce itself. It simply shifts the room without warning. Most people confuse strength with noise, but here's a brutal fact. According to psychology studies, the quietest personalities often exert the deepest influence, not by demanding attention, but by forcing others to lean in closer. That's the unnerving space Sigma males occupy, silent operators who turn everyday habits into undeniable proof of who they are. These aren't your cliché lone wolf moves or some recycled social media traits. No, these are the raw, often unsettling habits that separate Sigma males from the crowd, the little things they do that make people scratch their heads, whisper behind their backs, and sometimes even envy them without knowing why. And yes, some of these habits are so subtle that you won't even realize you've been practicing them until now. Others might make you laugh uncomfortably because they're brutally honest reflections of how Sigma males navigate the world. So buckle up. We're about to pull back the curtain on 12 extraordinary habits that prove you're definitely a Sigma male. Number 1. You never overexpose your mind. You never overexpose your mind. That's one of the sharpest habits that separates a Sigma male from everyone else. It's not about being secretive for the sake of mystery. It's about control. When people talk, they often give everything away: their fears, their desires, their insecurities, their entire playbook. A Sigma male doesn't hand over that kind of power. He knows once people fully understand how he thinks, they can predict him, use his words against him, or even box him into a role he never agreed to play. So instead, he shares only enough to keep the conversation flowing, but never the full picture. This isn't dishonesty, it's strategy. People might think they get him, but what they really have are fragments, pieces of a puzzle with missing corners. That half-understanding is what keeps people intrigued, frustrated, and sometimes even obsessed. Because human beings hate gaps. When something doesn't add up, the mind naturally tries to fill in the blanks. Sigma males use this to their advantage without even trying. They'll say just enough to leave you guessing, and by the time you think you've cracked them, you realize you're still nowhere close. It's also a shield. Overexposure makes people vulnerable, and vulnerability in the wrong hands is a weapon waiting to be turned against you. The Sigma male avoids that trap by treating his inner world like private property. Not everyone gets a key, not even those closest to him. This doesn't mean he's cold. It just means he knows the value of selective disclosure. He doesn't owe anyone his unfiltered thoughts, and that makes people both respect and fear him at the same time. There's also a subtle kind of humor in this habit. People love to brag about how well they understand him, but they usually don't realize he's the one controlling what they see. He lets them build their own version of him in their minds, and often that version is more dramatic, more mysterious, or even more powerful than the real thing. That's the Sigma advantage. Not overexposing, not explaining, and never letting people have the full map to who he is. It keeps him untouchable, unpredictable, and always 2 steps ahead. Number 2, you build invisible leverage. That's not just a habit, it's a survival code. While most people rely on luck, confidence, or even blind optimism, a Sigma male quietly stacks advantages behind the scenes. Every move he makes comes with a safety net, a backup route, or an escape hatch that no one else even knows exists. To outsiders, it looks like he's fearless when chaos hits. In reality, he isn't calm because he's unbothered. He's calm because he already calculated this exact moment long before anyone else saw it coming. This habit doesn't make him paranoid, it makes him untouchable. He doesn't trust systems, bosses, governments, or even relationships enough to leave his entire future in their hands. While everyone else places all their chips on one table, he quietly builds 3 more tables in the background. If one collapses, he doesn't lose everything. He just switches to another plan and keeps moving. That's why when others are scrambling in crisis, the Sigma looks almost unshaken. He's already rehearsed disaster in his mind and lined up contingencies that make him look bulletproof. Invisible leverage also explains why people often underestimate him. He doesn't flash his resources, contacts, or knowledge. He lets others assume he's alone, unsupported, or even vulnerable. Then when a critical moment arrives, he reveals just enough of what he's been holding back, a connection, a skill, a reserve of savings, or a hidden piece of knowledge, and the entire game flips in his favor. By the time anyone realizes he had cards tucked away, it's too late to counter them. It's a subtle power most never notice, because he doesn't advertise it. But it's also what separates him from ordinary people who gamble with their futures. Where they hope for stability, the Sigma male builds stability inside himself by stacking silent advantages. That's why he doesn't panic. His mind is already 3 moves ahead, and the chaos others drown in is the storm he already mapped out months ago. Number 3. You weaponize scarcity of access. In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, the Sigma male does the opposite. He makes his attention rare. And because it's rare, it instantly becomes valuable. People are conditioned to think that if someone is always available, then their presence is cheap. But when a Sigma male limits his accessibility, he flips the psychology. Suddenly, his time, his energy, and even his silence carry weight far greater than money ever could. This habit isn't arrogance, it's discipline. The Sigma male understands that constant availability drains power. The more people can reach you on demand, the more they assume they own parts of you. He refuses to let that happen. So he chooses who gets his time, when they get it, and how much of it they can have. This makes interactions with him feel charged, almost like rare events. People leave conversations with him feeling they've gotten something significant, precisely because they know it doesn't happen often. The scarcity isn't just about time, it extends to presence. When a Sigma male steps into a space, people notice, not because he's the loudest, but because they know he doesn't waste his presence in every room. He doesn't attend every gathering, he doesn't answer every call, and he doesn't show up just to be seen. That refusal makes every appearance intentional, almost strategic. And the human mind values what feels limited. That's why some people, after spending time with him, replay the interaction in their heads like it carried hidden meaning. What makes this habit powerful is that it also acts as a filter. By rationing his access, the Sigma male naturally weeds out the needy, the superficial, and the time wasters. Only those with genuine purpose and value remain close, which makes his circle small but sharp. Meanwhile, those denied his time often grow more curious, more eager, and sometimes even more obsessed. Scarcity makes people chase what they can't easily have, and the Sigma male uses that truth without saying a word. It's not about being unreachable, it's about making sure access to him feels like privilege, not entitlement. And in a society addicted to oversharing and overexposure, that scarcity is his quiet but lethal advantage. Number 4. You starve enemies instead of fighting them. While most people rush into open battles, arguing, shouting, trying to prove their point, the Sigma male chooses a weapon far more devastating: silence. He knows that nothing bruises the ego of an enemy more than being denied the very fuel they crave, attention. Conflict is like fire. It only grows if you keep feeding it. By refusing to engage, the Sigma doesn't just avoid the flames, he smothers them. This habit isn't cowardice, it's strategy. The Sigma male understands that enemies thrive on reaction. They want him to fight back, to explode, to show that they've gotten under his skin. Instead, he denies them that satisfaction. He ignores their provocations with such calm indifference that it eats them alive. Every insult bounces into a void. Every attempt at manipulation collapses because there's nothing to grab onto. It's not passive, it's psychological warfare. The silence becomes louder than words. While his enemy is burning energy, overthinking and spiraling into frustration, the Sigma simply outlasts them. He doesn't have to swing a single blow. The other person destroys themselves in the emptiness of being disregarded. That's the true genius of this tactic. It doesn't just neutralize enemies, it forces them to confront their own irrelevance. What makes this even more brutal is the Sigma male's patience. He doesn't need instant revenge. He knows time itself will do the heavy lifting. People who constantly seek conflict eventually expose themselves, embarrass themselves, or burn themselves out. By refusing to step into the arena, the Sigma watches from the shadows as his enemies dig their own graves. And here's the twist. Others might think he's being too calm or too detached. But that's because they don't see the real battle. The silence is the battle. The refusal to play is the strike. The starvation tactic breaks egos in ways words never could. It's the difference between wrestling in the mud and sitting back while your opponent suffocates on their own rage. That's why Sigma males rarely have messy confrontations. They don't need them. Their greatest revenge is to simply not participate and let silence do the killing. Number 5. You never let the environment own you. That's one of the rarest and most unsettling Sigma habits because it dismantles one of society's biggest illusions, that your worth is tied to your surroundings. For most people, environment dictates mood, confidence, and even identity. Put them in a luxury penthouse and they feel important. Drop them in a rundown motel and suddenly they shrink. But the Sigma male doesn't operate on that leash. His state of mind isn't rented out to 4 walls, designer furniture, or a zip code. He carries his worth internally, which makes him immune to the psychological tricks environments play on others. This independence confuses people. They expect everyone to adapt their behavior to the setting, to act grand in fancy spaces and humble in cheap ones. But the Sigma walks into both with the same unshaken energy. He isn't impressed by marble floors or intimidated by peeling wallpaper. That refusal to bend unsettles those who rely on external validation to prop up their self-esteem. It also gives him an advantage most people overlook: adaptability. Because he doesn't attach identity to environment, he thrives anywhere. Corporate office, back alley, airport terminal, it doesn't matter. He stays sharp, focused, and fully himself. This makes him unpredictable because while others lose their sense of power outside their comfort zones, the Sigma has no comfort zone to begin with. He is the constant in every equation. There's a subtle humor in this habit too. While others take endless pictures to prove they were in expensive places, the Sigma could sleep just as peacefully in a cheap motel without posting a thing. He doesn't need the backdrop to validate his life. The room adapts to him, not the other way around. That's why he carries an aura of freedom wherever he goes. If the penthouse is taken away, nothing inside him collapses. If he's elevated to luxury, nothing inside him inflates. His mind is sovereign territory, untouched by walls, decor, or labels. And in a world addicted to proving status through environment, that untouchability makes him impossible to control. Number 6, you don't bond over gossip or shared hatred. That's one of the quietest but sharpest Sigma habits, and it slices through more people than they realize. Most social circles run on this fuel, talking about who failed, who betrayed who looks bad, or who everyone secretly despises. For many, gossip is the glue that keeps groups together. But for the Sigma male, that glue is poison. If the only thing linking him to another person is a mutual enemy or a shared complaint, he cuts the cord instantly. There's nothing solid or lasting in that foundation, only noise that corrodes trust over time. The Sigma male's mind is wired differently. He knows that if someone is comfortable tearing others down to bond with him, they'll eventually use the same tactic against him when he's not around. It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Gossipers are opportunists, and shared hatred is always temporary. Once the common enemy is gone, the bond collapses, leaving bitterness and betrayal in its place. That's why the Sigma doesn't invest his energy there. He mentally exits, even if his face remains calm and unreadable. This habit also gives him a unique kind of power. By refusing to feed drama, he denies it oxygen. People who thrive on gossip find his presence frustrating because he doesn't play the game. His silence forces them to either shift the conversation to something meaningful or expose their emptiness by running out of material. And that quiet rejection often unsettles people more than an argument would. It's not that he never hears gossip, he just doesn't absorb it. He treats it like static on a radio, background noise that doesn't deserve focus. This makes his relationships sharper, stronger, and cleaner than most, because he only connects on values, purpose, or genuine respect. That's rare in a world where entire friendships are built on tearing others down. And here's the brutal part. People notice. Some admire his refusal to stoop low, while others resent it because it exposes their own smallness. Either way, the Sigma male wins. He walks away with his integrity intact, leaving the gossipers tangled in the web they spun for themselves. Number 7. You treat freedom as currency. For the Sigma male, freedom isn't an abstract idea or a motivational slogan. It's the most valuable asset in his life. Every decision he makes, no matter how small, is filtered through one brutal question. Does this give me more autonomy, or does it chain me tighter? Where most people weigh money, comfort, or approval, the Sigma weighs freedom. And if something threatens to cage him, even if it looks glamorous on the outside, he'll walk away without hesitation. This is why jobs, relationships, and commitments feel different in his hands. A job with a high salary means nothing if it demands his soul in return. A relationship filled with affection isn't worth it if it starts to suffocate his individuality. A big move, a purchase, or even a new friendship, if it doesn't add to his ability to live on his own terms, it's simply discarded. He knows that once you sell pieces of your freedom, you rarely get them back. That awareness makes him far more selective than most. It's also what makes him unpredictable. Society is built on control. Employers want obedient workers, partners want constant attention, systems want compliance. But the Sigma never plays long in cages, no matter how golden they look. He'll appear to cooperate just enough to keep the peace, but behind the scenes, he's building exits, designing alternatives, and securing leverage to walk away the second he feels trapped. That exit mindset unnerves people because they realize they never truly own him. There's a ruthless humor in this habit too. While others brag about promotions, possessions, or even social approval, the Sigma knows many of them are just celebrating new chains. They've traded liberty for recognition, autonomy for comfort. He doesn't mock them out loud, but deep inside, he can't help but smirk at how cheaply people sell their independence. To him, freedom is wealth. Freedom is power. Freedom is the only guarantee that he can wake up tomorrow and live life on his own terms, without begging for permission. Everything else, status, money, even love, is secondary. That's why, when you strip it all away, the Sigma male still stands unbroken. His true treasure was never outside him. It was the sovereignty he refused to sell. Number 8. You treat relationships like alliances, not addictions. For the Sigma male, connections are never about filling a void or clinging to someone out of fear of being alone. They're about mutual respect, shared growth, and alignment of purpose. That's why, when he bonds with someone, it feels intentional, almost like two forces choosing to walk side by side rather than one leaning on the other for survival. He values depth, yes, but never chains. This habit makes his loyalty razor-sharp, but rare. If he commits to someone, friend, partner, or ally, he'll show up with full presence. But here's the key. That loyalty is built on respect, not dependency. The difference is huge. Dependency makes people desperate, weak, and willing to tolerate toxicity just to avoid being alone. Respect creates balance, where both sides remain strong individuals who add to each other's lives instead of draining them. The Sigma male refuses to confuse one with the other. It also explains why he's so difficult to manipulate in relationships. Emotional blackmail, guilt trips, ultimatums, these tools fall flat on him. He doesn't fear walking away because he never needed someone to complete him in the first place. That detachment frustrates people who are used to controlling others through dependency. With the Sigma, they quickly learn there's no leash to pull. But here's the twist. This doesn't make him cold or incapable of love. In fact, when he chooses to love or commit, it's more powerful precisely because it's voluntary. He's not there because he needs someone. He's there because he wants them. And that difference makes his presence feel like a privilege, not an obligation. People who earn his trust know they've been chosen out of genuine respect, not convenience. There's also a hidden humor in this habit. He watches people treat relationships like lifelines, clinging, begging, panicking at the thought of separation, while he sees them as alliances that should empower, not enslave. To him, that level of panic only exposes weakness. A Sigma male's connections don't trap him, they sharpen him. And if they stop sharpening him, he quietly walks away. At the end of the day, his heart may be open, but his freedom always comes first. Love adds to his life, it never owns it. Number 9. You don't buy into group wisdom. For most people, there's safety in numbers. If the crowd agrees, it must be right. If the majority cheers, it must be good. But the Sigma male doesn't fall for that illusion. The collective voice doesn't seduce him. It irritates him. Whenever everyone nods in agreement, he instinctively feels the urge to probe, to challenge, to strip it down and see if the idea has actual strength or if it's just noise amplified by repetition. This habit unsettles people because it exposes a hidden truth. Most group wisdom is lazy thinking dressed up as certainty. People follow the majority not because they believe, but because it's easier than standing alone. The Sigma male doesn't have that weakness. He doesn't crave the comfort of belonging, so he can afford to question what others accept blindly. And when he pushes against groupthink, he often reveals cracks no one else noticed. Suddenly the so-called consensus doesn't feel so solid anymore. It's not that he automatically rejects popular opinion, he just refuses to accept it without stress testing it first. If an idea holds up under scrutiny, he'll respect it. But if it collapses under a single sharp question, he discards it without guilt, even if the whole room swears by it. That independence of thought makes him dangerous in group settings because one Sigma can destabilize the confidence of dozens simply by refusing to be swept along. There's also a subtle kind of humor in the way he treats group wisdom. He often watches people passionately defend beliefs they've never even examined. They argue as if their lives depend on it, but the second you ask them why they believe it, they stumble. That weakness amuses the Sigma because it proves most people aren't thinking, they're just echoing. This habit is why he often stands apart, why he's labeled difficult, contrarian, or even arrogant. But the truth is simpler. He refuses to outsource his mind to the herd. For him, the majority's approval means nothing unless the idea itself can survive on its own. And that refusal to bow to collective noise is what keeps his mind sharp, sovereign, and impossible to control. Number 10. You don't celebrate wins publicly. That's one of the most unnerving Sigma habits because it flips the script on how society expects success to look. People are trained to show off every achievement. New jobs, new cars, new relationships, even the smallest milestones plastered online for applause. But the Sigma male doesn't play that game. He can land something massive, something that would make others throw a parade, and still act like it was just another step forward. That silence unsettles people far more than bragging ever could. It's not about arrogance, it's about mindset. To the Sigma, a win is never the end. It's just one checkpoint on a longer road. While others celebrate like they've reached the mountaintop, he knows there are higher peaks still waiting. That perspective makes victory feel less like a grand event and more like confirmation that his process works. Why throw a party when you're already thinking about the next move? This habit also exposes how addicted people are to external validation. Most can't enjoy success unless others witness it. The Sigma doesn't need that audience. His satisfaction comes from the quiet knowledge that he pulled it off, that he beat the odds on his own terms. The lack of public celebration makes people uncomfortable because it robs them of the script they're used to. They don't know whether to congratulate him, envy him, or fear him. There's a sharp humor in this too. While others line up to post their victories, the Sigma might casually mention his success in passing or not mention it at all. By the time people find out, he's already 3 steps ahead working on something bigger. It leaves others scrambling to catch up, wondering what else he's hiding. And that's the real sting. His silence creates mystery. Instead of showing off, he lets people's imaginations run wild. Did he win more than he's letting on? Is he playing at a level they can't even see? That uncertainty is more powerful than any brag, because it makes people realize they're watching a man who doesn't need applause to know his worth. Number 11. You observe power plays in real time. Most people only recognize manipulation once the damage is already done. They look back, connect the dots, and think, I should have seen that coming. But the Sigma male doesn't operate with hindsight. He reads the move as it unfolds, the tone of a voice, the choice of words, the timing of a favor, the sudden shift in energy. He catches these signals instantly. Like flashing warning lights, others don't even notice. This habit makes him dangerous in social dynamics. He doesn't just see manipulation, he often flips it back without announcing it. Someone tries to corner him with guilt, and he responds with silence so heavy it collapses their tactic. Someone tries to assert dominance with arrogance, and he undercuts it with one precise comment that forces them to retreat. He doesn't fight for the sake of ego. He fights by letting the manipulator expose themselves. The power lies in his restraint. Because he can read games in real time, he doesn't need to overreact or get defensive. He stays calm, composed, and surgical. And that unnerves people. They expect resistance, but instead they get something scarier. Quiet recognition. The Sigma male looks at them in a way that says, "I see what you're doing," without ever saying the words. That alone makes many manipulators falter. There's also an unspoken humor in this habit. He often watches people think they're pulling strings, unaware he already spotted the thread in their hands. He lets them keep talking, keep performing, keep believing they're in control, until their entire strategy folds under its own weight. It's almost like watching someone trip over their own shoelaces while thinking they're leading a marathon. This ability makes him a rare kind of opponent, one you can't outmaneuver because he sees you while you're still setting up the trap. It's not paranoia, it's perception sharpened into instinct. Most people live in reaction. The Sigma lives in anticipation. That's why power plays rarely touch him. He's already dismantling them before anyone else realizes they've even started. Number 12. You see through social gods instantly. Charisma, authority, influence. Those things dazzle most people, but not you. Where the average person gets hypnotized by smooth words, expensive suits, or carefully manufactured confidence, you cut straight through the performance. The Sigma male has a natural instinct for stripping away the polish and exposing what's really there. To him, the social god isn't a larger-than-life figure to admire. It's just another human running on rehearsed mechanics. This habit makes you unsettling in environments built on hierarchy. A boss might project authority through tone and posture, but you notice the cracks, the insecurity in his choice of words, the overcompensation in his gestures, the way his confidence needs constant reinforcement. An influencer might look untouchable online, but you see the marketing psychology behind the image, the carefully staged lifestyle designed to hook the masses. A politician might command applause, but you hear the rehearsed rhythm in the speech, the manipulative phrasing meant to herd the crowd. Where others see greatness, you see strategy, and strategies can be dismantled. What makes this powerful is your refusal to worship. You don't get seduced by status, titles, or fame because you know they're just layers of costume. You deal with people based on their core, not their mask, and that unnerves those who rely on the mask for power. Charismatic leaders often feed off adoration. When they meet you, they sense you're immune. That lack of awe unsettles them more than open criticism ever could. There's a sharp humor here, too. You often watch crowds hang on to every word of a godlike figure, while you're quietly dissecting the script in your head. It's almost comical how easy it is to see through the illusion once you stop craving belonging. That detachment is what keeps you free. You can respect influence without being ruled by it, and you can recognize talent without confusing it for divinity. At the end of the day, social gods thrive on blind devotion. The Sigma male denies them that fuel. By seeing through the illusion instantly, he keeps his mind sovereign, his choices untouched, and his respect reserved only for authenticity, not performance. The habits we've just walked through aren't flashy tricks or shallow labels. They're the quiet mechanics that separate Sigma males from the noise of the crowd. Each one reveals a way of moving through life that rejects dependency, exposes illusions, and rewrites the rules of value. They don't need spotlights, approval, or applause because their strength isn't rooted in how others see them. It's rooted in how unshakably they see themselves. What makes a Sigma male different isn't rebellion for rebellion's sake, but a refusal to be owned. By environments, by people, or by systems. These habits prove that influence doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, withdraws, or starves its enemies in silence. And that's exactly why it's so effective. Because when the noise dies down, the Sigma is still standing, unbothered, and several moves ahead. If you've recognized yourself in these habits, then you already know. You don't have to announce who you are. The world will feel it. And if you haven't, Maybe it's time to sharpen your edges and cut away the illusions that keep you average. The habits you've just heard aren't about fitting into a label. They're about living in a way that can't be copied, bought, or faked. Sigma males move differently because they think differently, and that's what makes their presence so rare, so unsettling, and so powerful. These aren't surface-level traits. They're proof that you don't need noise to dominate. You just need control, clarity, and the discipline to never be owned. If this breakdown opened your eyes, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this video so more people can see what real independence looks like. And if something in here hit home, leave a comment below. I'd love to know which habit stood out to you the most. Stay sharp, stay rare, and I'll see you in the next one.